Tudod, hogy ki a világ egyik legelismertebb magyar származású pszichológusa? Egy olyan személy, akinek a felfedezéseit a világ minden egyetemén oktatják, és a világ 5. legjobb egyetemén a Pszichológiai Intézetnek az igazgatója, vezetője, és magyar származású. Hozzá hasonlóan nagy név még Csíkszentmihalyi volt korábban, sajnos őtőle már elbúcsúztunk, viszont Fonagy Péter még velünk van, olyannyira, hogy Magyarországra utazott, hogy a mi konferenciánkon megtartson egy előadást arról, hogy az ő életművét hogyan tudod te az életedbe beépíteni. Fonagy Péter még nagyon fiatal korában költözött ki az Egyesült Királyságba, még gyermekként, így a magyarja egy kicsit megkopott már, viszont angol nyelven nagyon nagy szeretettel tart egy előadást és egy beszélgetést. A Kötődés 2.0 konferencián láthatod azt a fajta beszélgetést, ahol alaposan megmutatja, hogy mi az az életmű, amit a világ minden táján oktatnak, és mik azok a konkrét, gyakorlati, gyors tippek, amiket te is be tudsz építeni az életedbe. Szóba kerül az is természetesen, hogy viszonyul a magyar gyökerekhez, viszont a mostani beszélgetésben egy olyan részletet láthatsz, amiben arról kérdeztem őt, hogy hogyan tudunk olyankor viselkedni, amikor valaki bántott bennünket. Mi van olyankor, amikor valaki agresszív velünk, hogyan tudjuk ezeket a helyzeteket jól megoldani? Az ő módszertana ebben is nagyon-nagyon sokat tud segíteni. A következő beszélgetés ugye angol nyelven fogod látni, viszont magyar felirattal. Tarts velem, és írd meg, hogy tetszett az adás.
When we are in a fist fight, we have to mentalize what the other person is thinking and feeling and how they would behave. And when we mentalize, it's more likely that we are empathizing also with the person.
Yeah.
And when we have a gun, it's less likely because we don't have to think that much about how they're going to think and move.
Well, I think the important thing is that when you and I are together and talking to each other, it's very hard for me to stop thinking about your thoughts or feelings because it's just kind of built into my genes. I have to really separate in my brain you as a person from you as a physical object for me to be able to hurt you. So if I was going to hurt you and suddenly your thoughts and feelings came into my mind, that would block me, that would stop me, because I don't want to hurt you, I don't want to cause you pain because it causes me pain. So, but if you're a physical object, if I make you into something that's is not really a human being, then of course I can do whatever I like to you. You can because you like the table, I can smash this table, I can smash you. So any way of hurting people that enables you to dehumanize the person is obviously more dangerous. We all think that we understand and we make assumptions, and it takes a really good mentalizer to recognize when they don't understand. So the parents that you're talking about are very likely to be parents who think that they understand their child,
Yes.
but actually do not. It's much easier to say, well, look, you're a naughty child, you go to your room, and that's that. It doesn't work very well. Number of years, I was quite interested in forensic psychology, in why people did things that they shouldn't do. And I was interviewing this young man who was in that institution because he would grab people's possessions, but would hit them first and then grab things away from them. And it was kind of not a pleasant young man, but kind of violent and impulsive. I asked him a question, was in the schedule. I had to ask him, what do you think made your parents behave as they did towards you? And he turned to me and said, "You tell me, you're the bloody psychologist." Like that. It wasn't very well spoken. So that wasn't a very mentalizing response. But when I heard his story was when he was 6, 7, 8, his father was alcoholic, would come home drunk and would urinate on him and his sister for reasons that are quite difficult to understand. But you can also understand why he really wouldn't want to know a lot about why people did things. It was actually better not to think about what people thought or felt. But of course, when you are in a situation where you no longer think about what people think or feel, you can do things to them like grabbing their possessions and hitting them. People have to recognize what emotion they show. And he was looking at these emotions, happiness, fear, terror, that sort of thing. And he was terrible at it. He couldn't do it. And then he was looking at this person who was looking terrified, and saying, so that sort of face. And he looked at it. I don't know what emotion it is, but that's what people look like just before I stab them. You lose contact with people's emotions, and that kind of enables you to do horrible things to them, stop mentalizing. And that's why I feel that encouraging people to mentalize better, not just in psychotherapy, but socially, as a community, to think about each other more as people, is the best protection we have for our own survival.
And if I'm a relative, for example, I have someone in my family who has a personality disorder and who is unable to mentalize. Do you have any tips for me, for example, how to connect or how to behave around people who cannot do this?
Yeah, I mean, believe it or not, I get asked this question quite a few times, because sometimes people who have a diagnosis of borderline personality disorder are in a relationship with somebody who doesn't, but who is actually having really quite an unpleasant time being shouted at and having to walk on eggshells because they don't want to trigger the person. The slightest thing can trigger a sense of feeling criticized in somebody who is not mentalizing that, because they imagine that you are saying that just because you are critical and you don't, you're in a difficult situation trying to adjust yourself to make sure that you don't actually say the wrong thing. It's not about you. If I put it simply, do not get up for the dance. You're being invited in that kind of aggressive attack to get up for the dance of being defensive, finding an excuse. I didn't mean that. What I meant was you were looking pretty this morning. I didn't mean that yesterday. That means that yesterday you were looking less pretty, or whatever. As soon as you get into that, you've got up for the dance. You are establishing a relationship between somebody who is a victim and you are a perpetrator. You should just be sympathetic and to say calmly and in a friendly way, I'm really sorry that I inadvertently hurt you. What did I say? Can you explain to me what I said that you understood as if I was criticizing you? You open up the relationship so that they have a chance to explain, and that gives them a chance to start mentalizing and get back into seeing you as the real person. Let me give you a clinical example from my practice. This is the best clinical intervention I've done in my life. It is not, I haven't been able to reach this level since. But I was with a very violent young man, and I made a bit of a mistake. He had very powerful features that would be called borderline features, but impulsive, aggressive. And I said to him something like that, I thought that I might be hurting him a bit by not being there at the next session. He just lost it at that point. He got up from his chair, he came over to me and shoved his fist right under my nose and said, "You want to know what it's like to hurt people?" Like that. And at that point, you get a little bit uncomfortable if you want to keep your nose as it is. And those are not the most mentalizing moments because, of course, when you're frightened, you can't mentalize very well because that part of your brain is switched off. But I don't know where that inspiration came from. I said to him, look, I'm getting a bit older now, and when something is this close to my eyes, I don't see it so clearly. So I wonder if you mind just moving your fist a little bit further away. And I kind of gently moved his fist away. And he smiled at me, went back to his chair and sat down, and we could talk again. Now, why? Because by actually making myself the person who was long-sighted and not seeing things so clearly anymore, and it made him feel that I wasn't a threat. That actually he didn't need to hurt me. Because what I said to him about feeling hurt made him feel that I was putting him down. I was dissing him. I was making him feel small. And he could only respond to feeling small by threatening me. Because when people stop mentalizing, they're likely to be quite aggressive and quite attacking. That makes you feel very defensive. And then you stop mentalizing. And then you no longer see them. So firstly, what you've got to do is start mentalizing yourself. Recover your own capacity to mentalize. And then you can help that person. If you just try and engage without actually being sure that you are mentalizing, that you can see them, then it's likely that you'll say something that's insensitive, that's unkind, that's critical, that puts them down, and that just gets into a spiral that gets worse and worse and worse. So first of all, I say, look, just stop. Better not to say anything. There's this recent conversation, and this very important politician attacked this politician from a small country. I don't know whether you can possibly think of who I'm thinking of. Anyway, this politician from the small country started being defensive and started saying, no, it's different. No. Of course, it just made matters worse. And then he came out as being somebody who was being insulting and being inexcusably disrespectful. All that he needed to do, and if you'd been a properly trained mentalization-based therapist, he would have known what to do, just to keep quiet, just to say nothing. But he got up for the dance. And once you get up for the dance, in that kind of non-mentalizing exchange, you're always going to come off worse. Because the person that you're talking to can't hear you, because they're not mentalizing. They can't take your perspective. You're trying to explain to them how your mind is working, what's happened in your mind. But they can't see that, because they're not mentalizing. So the only thing to do is to keep quiet and let them have the thing, and then be empathic and say, I'm really sorry that you could possibly feel that way. I don't know how I managed. I must have said something wrong that made you feel that I was not showing enough gratitude. Because I deeply feel the gratitude, but obviously I didn't say something. What is it that I didn't say that you expected me to say that would have made you feel that I actually was grateful? Because that's how I feel. And then you're having a very different discourse. And it's very hard to understand because we don't feel that we are a threat. But nevertheless, when you are dealing with someone who has experiences of adversity, or sexual abuse, or physical abuse, then when they look around themselves, they often feel that even things that are unintended are actually threats to them, their self-esteem, their sense of themselves.
Ez egy hatalmas dolog, hogy dr. Fonagy Péter is ellátogat hozzánk a konferenciára. Én még nem láttam őt soha magyarországi konferencián beszélni, viszont nemzetközi komoly szakfórumokon általában szembe jön a neve, és általában úgy hivatkoznak rá még a legnagyobb szakemberek Németországtól kezdve akármeddig is, mint a pszichológia egyik legnagyobb nevére. Úgyhogy én nagyon-nagyon megtisztelve érzem magam azért, mert ellátogatott hozzánk, és az a jó hír, hogy az ő előadásán kívül még ugye 17 fantasztikus előadás vár majd téged is, és ezeket mind ingyenesen megnézheted, sőt, előzetesen igyekszem majd még megosztani ezek közül érdekes részleteket, amik talán szintén az életedhez hozzájárulhatnak, de remélem, hogy velünk tartasz majd a konferencián is, sőt, akár még elküldheted a barátaidnak is. Találkozzunk ott!